Thank you for waiting. I would like to introduce keynote speaker today. The speaker today is Mr. Kakutani. He started being involved in the operation of Nihon Ruby Kaigi since 2006, and he started regional Ruby conference. And as an independent Agile coach, he has been providing support to enhance the agility of the team and organization. He has published many books such as Agile Samurai or Ruby Mechanism. He's on the stage first time after 5 years, and this is his third time on the stage. So he's talking with the theme of Ruby is nice, so we are nice. Now stage is for you. Good morning, everyone. Let me begin. Keynote speech. I got 1 hour, but it's still early in the morning, and I hope you enjoy my talk. My title today is Ruby is nice, so we are nice. A slightly different phrase may be familiar to you as a slogan in Ruby community. Mats is nice, so we are nice. This is a slogan because Mats is nice, so we have to be nice. We want to be nice. You know Mr. Martin Fowler? In the software industry, he makes a good name. He gives always good name. So oftentimes, when we have a trouble in mailing list, he writes something like Mats is nice, so we should be nice. So very casually, he put this writing, and every time we have something, we would try to verbalize this phrase in Ruby community. So how can we interpret we? Simply, we understand we is Rubyist. And what is Rubyist? There's a definition. It's very old, written in Matsumoto-san's book. Rubyist is somebody who has a feeling more than just a customer or more than just a user. It's a matter of feeling. So what kind of feeling is it? What I would think is, if you are using Ruby and you are already conscious about other people who are using Ruby and making action. For example, wake up early in the morning and come to Kunibiki Messe. This is already Rubyist. You are already talented as a Rubyist. So now the technologies or skill and how you are familiar with Ruby doesn't matter so much, especially in Ruby World Conference. Maybe people are starting soon, not yet, or people just started, are here, and people are just forced to use in the future. But as long as you are here, already you are Rubyist. So welcome. I would like to welcome everybody here to Ruby conference. So Mats is nice, so we are nice. Because we are, Mats is nice, so we should be nice. This is the phrase which has been used for a long time. However, last year in Ruby conference, it's held every year in the States. In 2016, keynote speech, Mr. Matsumoto said, Lintzman. So Mats is nice, so we are nice. If you take the abbreviation, means one. So all of a sudden, he said, Ruby is nice, so we are nice. That's what Matsumoto-san said in Ruby conference last year. And what is it at all? Because he's like overwriting whatever has been accepted by everybody. Why did he say so? All of a sudden. Well, after listening to his speech in the stage, I have been thinking why he started saying this. And I've been thinking about this for about a year already. So today, I'm going to talk about nice together with everyone here. So I looked up in a dictionary. It's very busy slide. Sorry about that. There's a section of the context. Nice is used to have a good feeling of a speaker, but the meaning is very wide and it's vague. So when you write nice in a written language, you have to be careful. So this is quite vague, convenient word. So how it is used in Japanese, we don't know clearly. So what we say nice to express such feeling. So nice may have a gestalt breakage. So Ruby is nice. We understand Mats is nice because Nuts is nice. Everyone agrees. Because you came over to here, you have felt Mats is nice. However, Ruby is nice. It's kind of difficult, slightly difficult. But fortunately, I had lecture last year in English, but yesterday it was like put nicely in Japanese. So thinking about the keynote speech yesterday, we can consider what is nice. So Ruby, based on what Matsumoto-san said yesterday, it's not the only programming language. It's library or framework or tools. The result made by everyone using Ruby. And the user or programmers, the nice feeling that everyone has brought together and which make user or programmer feel happy. And this is something nice. This is not so clear. This is vague. However, this is like feeling. So we have to just accept this.
So all the results that were brought by everyone to Ruby, so those results are nice. So that's why we, as Rubyists, we are nice. But the Rubyists are the ones who are bringing the results. Is it because the results are nice that Rubyists are nice? And if the Rubyists are nice, then Ruby is nice? So if I ask these questions, there's no stop to it. I wondered if this is an infinite loop. So I decided that I don't have to execute this. So I thought that this is the change maybe we can bring about. So why Ruby is nice? So with the nice feelings that are brought by the Rubyists will be nurtured by the Rubyist. So this is a kind of a dynamic expansion, and we update ourselves and we make changes by ourselves. So as long as we have Rubyists, this cycle will never end. So Ruby is nice, so we are nice. So that nice feeling of Ruby, what does that look like? So maybe people in the development team might know, but I'm not a member of development team. I'm just a fan of Ruby. So I wonder what it's like. So I needed some clue. So this year in Hiroshima, there was a Ruby Kaigi 2017. And when Matsumoto-san made a keynote speech, he talked about that not just because math is nice, but Ruby is nice. So we are the ones who are making Ruby nice. And the landscape or what it looks like were introduced at that keynote speech. He touched upon some technical aspects, but the language design of Ruby, or this is the language that Ruby is supposed to be, and it was designed by Matsumoto-san, and what is the nice way of using it? So the transformation and the history of the usage, or the improvement of Ruby, so who are working on what functionalities. So, and all the suggestions made by Rubyist. So, and that speech is on YouTube. So if you are interested, please check it on YouTube. So now, so making Ruby nice. So I have a sense of a prediction as to how the Ruby will continue to be nice in the future. But I am just a programmer. So at the Ruby Kaigi, people who make a speech or people who are referenced in the Ruby Kaigi, they're like the strongest skilled hacker in this planet. So those activities are done by those great hackers. Well, sure, we understand, but then I wondered, what should I do? If that's the nice we're talking about, as a normal Ruby programmer, how should I be involved? That was a difficult question. So even if we say that our technical level does not matter, but still we are in this field of technology. So how should we deal with this? I wondered. So what should we do then? Ruby is nice, so we are nice. In regards to this topic, as Maeda-san mentioned, that in the last 5 years, I haven't really touched upon this kind of a fuzzy topic. So maybe some people have not heard me saying about this, but in other places I have been known to make this kind of a fuzzy speech. So maybe some people are thinking that there you go again. But during this time, some people started using Ruby as a part of their business, as their jobs. So just a normal or regular programmers out there can do the following things. So that's what I would like to propose to you. So it's very simple. Well, technology or software development can be complicated, but we have become Rubyists, and we were brought together by this a higher force. So when we use this in our profession, this is something I think everyone should do. So during the daytime, with your colleagues or with your other programmers, we should treat them with respect, and we should be honest and tell them how we feel. So having that opportunity to talk about is important, because the goodness of Ruby is difficult to explain in words. So when you use Ruby or when you are using Ruby, there are certain feelings involved. So you might feel it's nice. That's at least how I like to believe. So that kind of feeling and how you feel in your work. So we would like to encourage you to exchange opinions and just talk about it. So if you want to begin having that kind of conversation, it can be an official thing. And it can be done however you want it to be done. Maybe you can start with just a 30 minutes conversation. There are several methods. You can just look back on what you have worked on as a group, or you can have a one-on-one conversation, or just chatting, or you can have some kind of an interview, or you can talk over lunch. So you can talk with other programmers or people who are not programmers. But I will be addressing mostly to programmers. So, but if necessary, a group should not be closed just by programmers. But if necessary, we should also involve managers and other non-programmers as well. But to begin with, I think it's a good idea to start with the people who are actually using Ruby, i.e. programmers. So why I talk about the feelings or emotion? Because Ruby is a programming language, so this is a programming language to make computer do a certain jobs, and computers will receive the language and do the work. But the programmers who write the program, when they write in Ruby language, it's fun, and the funness is also conveyed through Ruby. So this is impressive. So what I mean by that is that if Matsumoto-san writes a program in this way, it feels nice or it's fun. So through the programming language, when I write Ruby, I can also reproduce the joy or the excitement of writing that. So conveying emotion through the language, I think that is the word of a poetry. I think it's a poem. So through Ruby, Matsumoto-san is enable other programmers to reproduce the joy or the excitement of using Ruby. So Ruby delivers emotion as media. And when we use Ruby in our work, so through our work, we can also deliver a certain emotion to Ruby users. So I wonder if we are really doing this. So through our work, this nice feeling, is this brought to the receivers of our work from emotional point of view? So that's what I would like to encourage you to talk about from emotional viewpoints.
And at the time, I think it depends on you, what kind of conversation you have. Like, this is what I can do, or this is what I am not doing, and this is I'm strong, and this is I'm weak, and I'm confident for this area, or I'm not confident in this area, or I have some problem, and I have some vague feeling in my mind. Through your work, what kind of emotion you will have, what kind of emotion that will be occurring into you. There are many emotions, I believe. So the funness of Ruby, when you use Ruby, how is it close to that? So I want to talk about emotion because people's emotion we don't know others' emotion. So I hope you can talk about the emotion. So why do I say this? Ruby is used in many more companies or business because Ruby World Conference is 9th year, and in the last 10 years it's increased. There are many sponsors we have now, and in the booth, Ruby Biz Grand Prix I saw in the exhibition, and they don't have everything. There are many things which is not exhibited in like today's hall. So the opportunity that we use Ruby is now increased many more. However, the workplace where the nice feeling when you are using Ruby, the excitement, how can we do, or if I wonder how I can do, or this would be nice, it would be nice if you can do this. This kind of nice feeling of using Ruby, the number of nice feeling delivered through work is not increasing at the same speed as the increase of the number of workplaces that uses Ruby. There are many good workplaces, however, not all of them are delivering this nice feeling via Ruby. However, once you use Ruby, like you come to this conference or Ruby Kaigi or in community, you exchange. So if you use Ruby, your work will change automatically. That's not the case because it's difficult. What's the difficulty we have? Ruby has been developed together with the computing power enhancement and spread of internet. It has been born and developed together with this trend. So this is free and natural software. So the Ruby was developed because like Ruby was wanted. It's very wild software. As a software, it's very wild. It's like a beautiful flower on a field of the internet. It's a wild software. And the people who are good at making programs made this. Hackers made this. What kind of scenery is it? Of course, I have to again talk about the Ruby Kaigi. The Nobu gave a keynote speech. And you can watch YouTube how Ruby is developed. And you can feel the wildness of Ruby development. Well, however, the software as business is something different from free and fun. Like Matsumoto-san says, he's developing with a hobby. And however, the software as business is more sort of artificial. Because you're forced, you make it. And because you face the need, you made it. This is what often happens with the software as business. And developer is not all hackers. I'm not saying this is good or bad. However, it's different from the environment that Ruby has been born and developed. So if you bring just Ruby to this environment, it doesn't work so easy. There are lots of troubles, conflict. So is there anything we could do? Well, we cannot do anything. Even though wild software, this niceness of Ruby, well, we can reproduce itself by somebody other than hackers like ourselves. There are methods that we, not hackers, can reproduce such world of agility. That's what's called Agile or Lean. So this is how we reproduce the nice in the work or business. So how hacker do? In Agile software development is close to the hacker development. Well, is it so? Well, I picked up from the Kanza-san slide. It's by Eric Raymond, who has defined the open source activity. He's quite familiar with the hacker culture. And this is Martin Fowler and hacking and refactoring. And Eric Raymond made a comment. He says this is obvious. However, he says Fowler's explanation is nicely put, very well organized. So the good software like Ruby, there's a method that such software can be developed by a normal person like ourselves. This is my thought. So here is the new methodology for the development of the software. How can we make it agile? This is again the summary by Martin Fowler. So what we want to pay attention to is the first one, predictive, rather than deciding in advance accurately. Well, we need to be adaptive on the real world, in the real world. And secondly, the process, predefined process, rather than following the predefined process, the people who are executing the process is the most important component. And thirdly, the process of the development has to be developed through the feedback after the previous development. This is the summary of the Agile. So how can we use this? Using this framework, what can we achieve?
So, for example, there is a framework called Scrum. This is used in the Agile project. So using this as a media, and the goodness of Ruby can be delivered as a result of this of the work. So we can make it as a poetry. So delivering emotion. So it's a framework for delivering emotion. So the key phrase here, I would not have time to go through all of this, but keywords would be transparency, inspection, and adaptation. So for what do we do this? The purpose is to deliver the nice feeling or the funness of using Ruby, and that funness felt by programmers have to be reproduced by the users. And for example, there is this a grand concept of lean enterprise. So there is a concept called lean startup, so which became extremely popular at one time. So doing the startup in a lean way, and maybe that can be adapted to larger corporations. And in this concept, as a tool, mission command or improvement kata are provided, and what are we delivering with those? So, delivering nice feeling. So, the work that we do, are they conveyed as a nice feeling to the users or the receiving end of our work? So, the key phrases here is that the target, state, purpose, and minimum restrictions. So how we use it is whether we are delivering the nice feeling or not. So for people who use Ruby in their work, they enjoy using Ruby. They have fun using Ruby. That's assumption here. But that funness or that joy, are they really being reproduced on the receiving end when we are working as the at the sending side of the work? So the question is, the people who are on the receiving end of our work, are we close enough so that the users can reproduce the funness of Ruby using the Agile or Scrum frameworks? So this is what I would like to encourage you to pay attention to. So, to deliver a nice feeling of Ruby as a media for that, how we should conceive this from the viewpoint that various things can be regarded as poetry. So I have some quotes for you. This is by Christopher Alexander in his book called Pattern Language. So pattern language is a concept in which he came up with in order to create a nice building. And this Mr. Christopher Alexander is an architect, and in the software world, this is utilized as a design pattern or architecture pattern, organizational pattern, or domain-driven design. So this is widely utilized. So he was a quite influential person in the software world. So he talked about how one can have fun in their work. So if you become a cog in the machine, you are no longer able to have fun in your work. You only can have fun in your work when you know the entire picture of the work, and also you have responsibility for the quality of the entire work. This is when you can have fun. So the funness of Ruby, I think this is pretty close to the funness of Ruby. Next quote is from the famous Martin Fowler when he talked about why he uses Ruby. He said, "There's business value in fun. After all, motivation is a major factor in programmer productivity." This makes sense. So just to briefly introduce you to this concept of modern Agile. So it was written by Kijigoski. So in this agile method, it's been out there in the world like 14 or 15 years. So in the software development, this is applied, and so this was the principles compiled in 2015. And these principles can be instrumental. And make people awesome. Awesome is like a really, really good, really great. And making people awesome, not just programmers, but the service receivers or the stakeholders, so people who are involved in the software, in the development or the usage of the software. So everyone involved would become awesome. So this is really nice. This is a spirit of nice. In order to realize this, so this has become a popular idea, but deliver value continuously. So continuous delivery is important. Otherwise, there is no awesome involved. And the third part is to make safety a prerequisite. The safety is technology-wise or some technological safety which will prevent an unintended failure. So in the US, maybe the restructuring or layout has something to do with this, but that kind of safety is also paid attention to. So this kind of a psychological aspect is rather difficult, or how should I say, what do they mean? It's not so easy to express it in a few words. So I mentioned about the importance of having conversation about the feelings. So are we really capable of expressing our emotion honestly? If you have anxiety, or if you're having difficulty, or if something is not working well, can we say those things? So on the left side, there's an experiment and learn rapidly. So in the software development, this is an experiment. So experiments sometimes work and sometimes not. It is taken for granted. And what's important is to learn from the results and to utilize that in your next experiment. So instead of just taking these as kind of like just a reference, but I encourage you to utilize this so that you can deliver the funness or the nice feeling that you had using Ruby. So how can you make the best use of these principles? So this is how I would like you to look at this. So there was presentation by someone named Kakutani. So, how I met Ruby. In the year 2000, the beginning of the 21st century or the end of the 20th century, it was just out of coincidence I met Ruby. And back then, I wanted to learn about the object-oriented language. But it's hard to explain. But when I touched Ruby, I felt that object orientation is an object. So when I have something that I would like to write or when I have something to do, Ruby enable them. And semicolon. So without having semicolon, how easy it is to write a program. So it just felt right for me. The program, I felt that this is what programming is all about. So during the course of familiarizing myself with Ruby, I felt that the work as a programmer is like solving problem together with computers. So that's how I feel. And when I want some script, I can write it, and sometimes I share it with the rest of the team. So we and the team members and computers work together and use Ruby and achieve what we wanted to achieve. And then our users would feel that, oh, this is very nice. So that's how I started to feel about the programming. Before, I just felt like I'm just someone who is writing program based on the specification. And another thing is that Ruby is a technological thing, so there's an output. So I might sound really stupid, but this is created by human for the sake of human. So Ruby, or like any other language, or the Ruby library, so those are created by human beings. I felt humanity. That's what I learned. So in the field of technology, there's a hardware, products, packages. How should I say? So those objective things or objects. So we see them as an object, but it's more like the results of the activities done by human beings. That's how I started to see things. And I also touched upon Agile, and I talked about Ruby and Agile. So in order for other people to deepen their understanding, I'm not very good at creative things, so I decided to translate some of the books written by the authors in the world, so that the people can feel the funness. So I have worked on the translation of these books. So it's been like 16 or 17 years since I met Ruby, and how do I see myself? And this is the answer I always come to. So I'm a Rubyist. Of course I like Ruby, but I like Rubyists. I like people who create Ruby and who uses Ruby and who are interested in Ruby. And for people who likes Ruby and making those people happy And I hope that there will be more people who will become happier through the Ruby. So I am a director of the Japan Ruby Association, and so it was a grassroots Japan Rubyist activities, but it has become a legal entity. So it's very convenient if the organization become a legal entity from the procedure point of view. So we are engaged in the creation of Ruby reference manual or Rubyist magazine, or organizing Ruby Kaigi or regional Ruby Kaigi. So just to mention briefly, this Ruby association is helping the organization of this Ruby conference, so it's a little bit different. So Ruby association is an there's a foundation, so they have their responsibility is to utilize the financial resources in a nice way and to work together to further spread the Ruby and to further develop Ruby. So we are learning together and working together. And for the last few years, I have been working as a freelance, but I'm not doing very well. I'm struggling. So that is the current situation. So there are so many things that are not working so well. So when we talk about Ruby, it's not so simple. There are several areas in which Ruby is not really a Ruby per se.
So last 1 year, well, I have had some vagueness in my mind, which I'm sharing now with you. However, Ruby going forward, this niceness of Ruby is something we brought together. We want to cherish this nice feeling that has been brought by all the Rubyists. And I wonder, you may say like what I'm talking about in front of all the experts, but I think this is it. The nice feeling of Ruby has to be cherished and nourished by all the Rubyists. And this is kind of the endless activity. So ordinarily, Ruby users, I want to keep this in my mind. The nice feeling that I receive using Ruby, or the emotion that was delivered as a programming language. How can we deliver this feeling to the receiver? If it is possible to deliver emotion to receiver, there are many aspects of job, but job as poem could be featured, then the job will be slightly more fun. How can we do this in order to do that? Maybe the first step will be, well, it's not like confirming, but how we feel, how we receive. Well, at least between programmers, well, you talk about progress or work or a lot of meetings, and you ask each other, what do you do now? But you don't ask, how are you feeling? So first, let us start by asking, how are you feeling? What kind of feeling you have for your job? Can you please exchange with your colleague? And the niceness of Ruby, the distance with the niceness of the Ruby, is it close or is it very far or something is missing? First, let us start by talking with each other. And if you have any problem, I think there are many issues which cannot be solved just by chatting. However, if you're not doing this, would you please just exchange with your colleague? And if you have some issue, please let me know somewhere. We are in November, and maybe the late November, I will have some time. After late November, I'm now quite filled up, tied up. So if you have any, like last 5 years, the people who started Ruby last 5 years, how are you feeling? How are you doing job using Ruby? As a middle-aged man who likes Rubyist a lot, I'm very conscious and I'm very interested how you are feeling using Ruby. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. So niceness of Ruby. What is this niceness? When we think about yourself, the feeling that occurs when you use Ruby, how are you feeling? How am I feeling? We need to look back and we need to maybe write down and we need to exchange. Well, I personally want to ask you, encourage you to talk with each other how you are feeling using Ruby. And today I talked about quite vague theme, but maybe the reading you can have after my talk is like these are the books I want to recommend. After listening to my talk, how emotion is conveyed from the perspective of the communication or conveying message, probably you will find something new. And I may have some more time. The one in the top, the Agile by Mr. Kado was announced in Sapporo. So what I just talked, how we can reproduce the niceness of the Ruby, Agile is necessary. Like Mr. Kado made good research. The object-oriented and Hakka and Agile, they are all connected. And they started to introduce Team League. This is Team Geek. This is quite nicely summarized. And because you are talented to become Rubyist, and this Rubyist入門is written by Masayoshi Takahashi. He's the real Rubyist, and this is the version of 2015. And I'd like to recommend you to read. So in Kawasaki Ruby conference, this was used. This slide is used. So this is still true. This still works after a while. And the third one is just for reference. Rails Doctrine by DHH. The Rails was developed by DHH, and this DHH, the niceness of Ruby can be interpreted in Rails. Like the principle of Rails is nicely summarized in this book. This is a really nice poem, but he's a so extreme great hacker, so you don't have to copy him. You can just learn how nice is it in Rails. If you are interested, you can learn from this David book. So I have raised a couple of reference books. And if you have time, I would like to recommend you to take a look. So Matsumoto-san overwrite. Mats is nice, so we are nice, but he overwrite as Ruby is nice, so we are nice. Now the time has moved. So this niceness of Ruby, how can we make it happen as a Rubyist? I hope I can talk about this somewhere in future. So this concludes my talk. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So now we would like to open the floor for question and answers. Anyone with questions, please raise your hand. Anybody? No? Okay. Please wait for the microphone. It was a very nice presentation. Thank you. So I'm working on the programming, and I really related to your presentation. So on Monday next week, I will go to my office, and how should I start what you suggested? Do you have any advice? So how can you start communicating with your colleagues? Okay. Is it difficult for you to talk about, what you heard in Shimane? Or maybe you can just casually ask them, how about this? Okay, thank you. Maybe your colleagues or the team members. So one way is to observe how they are feeling, but you should also talk to the person, and you have to listen to them. Yeah, I think you can just start it casually. Even if it doesn't work, you can always come up with other way. Okay? Maybe you can start by telling some story or some experience you had in Shimane. Okay. Anybody else? No?
Okay, a person in the back. Thank you for your nice presentation. So now when I come back to office on Monday, I start programming, and I need to encourage those people. So in your nice presentation, somebody is very specific to Ruby, and the other things can be maybe related to other language. So when you encountered Ruby, you had some impression. So why Ruby is nice, and how can we make other language nice? Do you have any advice? So my advice is like Takahashi-san has a book called Rubyist, the Advanced Rubyist. So when it goes to advanced, Rubyist is Rubyist even outside of Rubyist. So the merit or advantage of Rubyist is true even outside of the Ruby. So it can't be synthesized. The good feeling of Ruby, there are like some reasons or background, but other language has also background, which makes it very unique. The Ruby is good because it's fun and very fast. And of course, there must be other advantage of other programming language. So the uniqueness or the advantage is all different, and that is all good. I think Matsumoto-san says that he loves all the programming language, and I think this is true. So the niceness of Ruby, well, you can be Rubyist even when you don't have Ruby. How do you like it? Thank you. Any other question? No? Okay. So maybe later, if you have question, you can exchange card with Mr. Kakutani and you can just directly talk with him. He talked so much with fun, but I felt your tension before you started speech. You took off your jacket and you took off shoes, and I wonder how much he will take off, how he is wild and how he is free. So in private, you had some nice thing? In my private life, nice thing? Not so much? Okay, so now time is up. Thank you for your presentation. So Kakutani-san has shared a lot of phrases that has touched our heart. Thank you very much. And please give him big hands.